So till, what day did I get out? The day before yesterday. And the day before yesterday, I had gone into court. My attorney was working to have me released so I could go home. I really needed to go home. The problem was my driver's license, everything I have is in my car, still at the resource center. I had one credit card on me. They took all that. I had no way to get anywhere, and they took the money I had that was in my pocket. I think there's like 33 bucks or something. They took that, but I had nothing. No toothbrush, no hairbrush, no nothing. I had nothing. And so the judge said when we went in, my attorney was hoping that I would be released. My sister flew up from Phoenix to come and get me, so I'd have a way home. But and they were saying they could probably help me get home. But I said, you can't fly me home. I have no ID. And they have my keys to my car. So how was anybody going to get it? It was crazy. And so then so I left probably the courtroom around 5 o'clock, 4:30 ish. I don't know exact times, and then I went in. We just barely got there in time to eat. I just was eating my dinner when the jailer came and said, "What size do you wear? They're releasing you." The judge said they weren't going. The prosecuting attorney said it was okay to release me. My attorney said it was okay to release me. The judge said they would release me at the time that the people at the refuge left, because there were some people still holding out or something. And I said to my attorney, well, how long do I know that's going to be? Because I'm not in charge. How would I know how long they're going to be there, or what's happening? So how is that based upon? Anyway, I went back to the cell. I was eating. They came and asked for my clothes size. About 30 minutes later, they came and they got me, and they took me out and downstairs, took the things I had on, the jail stuff, gave me some clothes out of their little stash, something. And I kept asking for my clothes and my coat, and they said, well, the feds haven't released it. They took it over there, and they handed me a little card that had $50 on it and let me out the door. That was it. And I didn't know how I was going to call anybody, because they have a phone there that calls your attorney, that you can call an attorney on, but I can't exactly use this card. I don't even know how to do that. There's a pay phone there. I don't know anybody's numbers. Everybody has cell numbers. How am I supposed? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Anyway, I called my attorney. She was able to get hold of my sister, and came and got me in about an hour or so. And then we took off, and I was headed home. I had a tragedy that happened at home. On our way there, we got a phone call about my son-in-law, who just was in a horrible fire. My daughter called me, and their shop was burning down, and she was freaking out, and the kids, and my attorney had called her and had called my house and told my husband that if I was coming home, they had to remove all weapons out of my house. So he had taken them all to my daughter's house, to the shop, and her husband and the family were at the shop that night. He was working on his backhoe, and the kids had gone up and gone back to bed, and they were awakened by the fire engine. And I guess that shed was engulfed. Her husband was sitting by the fireplace and the wood stove, and must have fallen asleep. It ignited something, and then it blew something up. And then all of a sudden, when she was trying to get him out, all the bullets were going off, and it was horrible. She couldn't get in, and my son-in-law was killed, and I can't even get home. So she's hysterical, and I'm saying, I'm on my way. We're 3 hours out, and I get a call from my attorney. Says, turn around, come back. I said, I can't, I have to go home. She said, did they give you any release papers? I said, they didn't tell me anything, they just put me on the street. She says, you have to come back, because they didn't put an ankle bracelet or whatever it was on, or whatever. And she says, I'll help you in the morning. I knew she couldn't do it Saturday. Who's going to come to work till Monday? So reluctantly, we had to turn around and come back because she said that they would probably pick us up if we didn't. We came back and have been sitting waiting till Monday morning to get whatever our release papers are. I had no idea. There was no guidance, stipulations, nothing. So at this point, we had heard nothing. So we're here waiting.
Jeez. Whew. Well, let me ask you a couple more questions here about the incident. Now, did you hear shots fired before Lavoie reached his hand over? Did they shoot first when after he had gone out of the truck? Did they fire before he had moved his hand? Was there shots fired?
Absolutely, absolutely. There was all kinds of bullets going. He had his hands out and they were shooting while he was walking towards them with his hands out.
Okay. Also, there was reports that there may have been a Fed on the inside, maybe a double agent. Do you have any
well, that's
thoughts on that?
Well, that's why we think it was maybe this Mark person, because he was so anxious about getting people there, and suddenly when we were in the van, he was worried about his, quote, $60,000 Jeep that he kept throwing up there, and was making sure the Jeep was still there. And when we get there, he's not there. And then we find out later that he's back with his Jeep. He got released. There was no charges. When we got handed those pieces of paper, he wasn't on there. In fact, if you look, Lavoie Finnegan's name's not on there either. So there was no warrant before this thing went down.
Now, did you see the police or any agents filming this while this was going on? Did you see any cameras?
I didn't see any cameras. That doesn't mean there's not cameras. I did see that there was an officer. Specifically, there was one man there that was carrying a rifle, and I said, "Well, how come you don't have a camera on your hat?" And he said, "Well, I got a flashlight." Well, I wasn't looking at that. There's kind of a little strip of like I don't know what you call it, but for a place that you might put a camera, like a GoPro on your head, but there's no cameras on. There was no camera on it. And I asked him, "So you lost your camera or what?" And he said, "No, this is just a flashlight." I said, "No, the other thing in the middle of your head." So that's all I ever saw. I didn't see anybody actually with any cameras.
Okay, I think we've about covered it there. Does anyone else have any other questions?
The question I have regarding is when we're looking at the tape with the drone comes around behind the agent. The first thing we saw was the gentleman get out of Lavoie's vehicle. The second thing we saw was a girl with long dark hair that I didn't recognize. Is that
was Victoria. Mm-hmm.
Then we see you coming last, and you're sort of trying to get through the snow and going sideways. When we see Lavoie, the drone is pointing down at Lavoie. When he gets out, he has his hands straight up, and then all of a sudden, it's like he got shot in the right side, it looked like, as he kind of reaches down to his side. And then as he flips around, he's looking at the guy coming out of the trees, pointing the gun straight at him, and you can see the shock look on Lavoie's face. Did Lavoie reach down to his right side because he'd just been shot with the first shot?
That I can't answer you because I didn't see that part.
But then we see him looking right at the guy who's pointing the gun at him like he's in shock. Because I remember Lavoie saying many, many times, you never point a gun at someone unless you're intending to use it. And his hands were up in the air when it looks like he got shot the first time in the side. Your instinct is to go down and grab your side when you get shot because it hurts, right? So if his hand dropped down a little bit, was it because he was in pain on his side? Then the guy shot him, we saw him go flat, right back on his back on the ground. Okay.
I saw the video later, just in fact yesterday or whatever day I got it. I did see that video. It only made sense to me because I did get more information since that time. It only made sense to me that he was going away from the vehicle towards them, and then I see him turn and come back, and that's when I see him go down from the video. Right, after he's already been shot. And I thought he had, and this is my own assumption, I thought that they had hit him and that's why his hand was going down, because they had hit him.
Right.
And then he turns and comes back towards the truck and they shoot him again, You can see him from the side, and then he lays back into the snow and he's dead. Now, since then, yesterday I learned new information that in fact he only had 3 bullet holes, and they were all from the back.
Now, the other question I have that has to do with that, we see the drone coming